Greetings and welcome to episode 29 of the Department of Tangents podcast, a special Women in Comedy Festival bonus episode with Petey Gibson and music from Amy Helm. This is perhaps the tangentiest of all of these episodes so far. It was originally intended to be a quick 10 or 15 minute interview to be used in episode 28 with some of the other short interviews I did bouncing around the festival. It was taped at 2:30 in the morning in the lobby of the Westin Hotel, the hotel where Laugh Boston is based, and where the WICF after-party had just taken place. We were both a little tired and punchy, but Petey is a very easy person to talk to, and she's also trained in the art of yes and, a principle of improv that states that you accept what your scene partner just said and you build on it. And as Petey put it later, we yes-anded the shit out of each other in this conversation. We talked about Petey's wonderful Mary Dolan character, about her Somerville series, a little vaudeville history, working in Los Angeles, where Petey currently lives and works. But we also went all over the map, telling stories I don't think either of us intended to tell in a podcast episode. And since it was such a fun conversation, I'm just going to put the whole thing out there and hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. You can see some of Petey's stuff on the blog page at departmentoftangents.com, and keep listening after the conversation for a track from Amy Helm's album Didn't It Rain. I interviewed Helm before a recent show, and her episode will post later this week. And now, enjoy Petey Gibson. Stereo condenser.
Yay!
Microphones. I've got to sort of wave this like Egon to find where the
hole is where my voice is.
That's good.
Is that it?
That gets us both right
I'll
there.
I'll prop my head like this.
That's good. For those who can't see, we're sitting on couches in the Westin Hotel in the lobby.
It's classy as hell.
At the after party. Yes, there's a little...
Team, it's 2:26 a.m.
I didn't realize it had gotten that far past 2.
It's very late. Nick's like, let's do an interview. I'm like, great.
Well, we've got this whole forest here.
We do. It's really a stunning sprawl. Guys, if you can make it out.
Before we
have
leave.
A staycation.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll be here when you get here.
Yeah, for sure. We live here now.
Those will be our skeletons on the green couches.
Yes, for sure.
By the front desk.
Just ask. Where did the podcasters die?
Yes.
Oh, we don't want to move them.
This would be a little sign.
Yeah.
No, it's an OSHA thing. None of the employees are allowed to touch the skeletons.
It's always an OSHA thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Fuck. Like, oh, that's an OSHA thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have you performed yet in the festival so far? Or your show?
I friggin' nailed it at the Comedy Studio tonight. That's a lie. I ended really awkward. I had a 3-minute joke and only 1 minute to tell it, so I started in the middle, and it's a joke about wieners, and the audience was like, this took such a crazy turn, and I was like, I'm ending badly, bye, my name's Petey Gibson, so.
And you did it as Petey and not as Mary Dolan,
exactly.
your alter ego.
Yes, so for our friends at home, I have a lot of multiple personalities that I call a career. It's a good way to do it. It's lucrative. It's not lucrative. I feel like I'm lying a lot. It's after 2, that's why I'm lying.
That's okay.
So I performed as Petey myself tonight, and then tomorrow I have 2 shorts in the Shorts Festival. There's like a
film shorts.
Yeah. Oh my God. Woo! Best interview of my life. I'm flashing my tatas right now. Yeah. So there's like a Rachel Bloom competition. So I made a short for that, and then there's like the WICF film, just regular competition. And I expect to win both. I only go in with my hopes too high and allow myself to crash at the end of every day. That's the way I do it.
So you've got film. You're going to do Mary Dolan.
Yeah, and then Mary Dolan's at night. I'm hosting and headlining the LGBT showcase as Mary, and then I think I'm scooting off to Improv Boston to make an appearance as Mary after.
That's one of the thing about these festivals. Everybody's doing multiple shows. Everybody's running around town.
It's so crazy, and it's hard because you want to see so much, but like we have people like going on early at a show and then immediately leaving and being like, I'm so sorry, and they're like going, because the venues are spread out all over the place.
Right.
So they're going from like Somerville to Cambridge to JP and then like heading all the way back for like the after party in Somerville.
Yeah. For those who've never been to Boston, It's not huge, but I think we have the same amount of road in between places as larger cities.
And the problem is nothing's on a grid. So
Right.
so it's like 20 minutes of getting lost and 10
Right.
minutes of getting there.
It's like somebody put some darts in a centrifuge
Oh my
and
God.
then built a city on wherever they landed.
Say what you want about LA. I left Boston and I live in LA now, and say what you want, but there's some good grid action where you're just like, I'm gonna take the Brea all the way up, baby. And you can. It's a straight line that just goes through the city.
So for those who might not know Mary Dolan, how would you describe Mary Dolan?
So she's an 86-year-old ex-vaudevillian still trying to make her way, and I host the Mary Dolan Show monthly or like quarterly or randomly or like twice a month, depending on what happens. I started in Boston. I do it in LA. I brought it to Chicago. And then Mary's been to like London and Toronto and all kinds of stuff.
Is she your best known creation, would you say, at this point?
Yes. Yeah, people like Mary because she's kind of like, well, listen, I'll explain it to you. I'm very wonderful. Everybody loves me. The gays, they love me. Lesbians, they're into it. Whomever, your husband, he loves it. He catches a sniff of this wind, snatch wind, and he's good to go. And my show's very fun. I do all kinds of I do Sophie Tucker numbers. I have a puppet co-host.
It's a completely different person before me now than just seconds ago.
Yeah,
it's
people.
Too bad
it's
you can't
funny.
see this transformation.
Yeah, people like Mary more than they like me, which is like good. It's like an ego boost, like career-wise. But I'm also like, I've been to places people are like, I wish Mary could be here. I'm like, it's your house party, asshole. Like that would mean I would be in character working instead of attending.
Do you feel pressure to become Mary when you're uncomfortable? Like this sort of
like
incredible,
is she who I like crawl into?
Like an Incredible Hulk sort of thing, like uncomfortable changing to Mary Dolan.
It's my best party trick. I can't do any like card things, but I can really whip out voices.
How do you keep all this stuff compartmentalized in your head when you're yourself doing stand-up, or when you're Mary Dolan hosting a show or burlesque or wherever Mary lands and doing film?
Oh, that's funny. I've never I think I can't help it. Honestly, like I think I have a problem. I don't really know, but like I think it's that I know my character's point of view. Oh, I've never really thought about this before.
About
it's blowing my mind.
Different parts of your head
I guess kind of like there's jokes that, so like my personal stage presence is sort of like meek and adorable queer jokes. But Mary is very like loud, brash, hypersexual, has a ton of stories, like is that old lady. So that's like an aspect of myself that's like a super extrovert, but I think personally I think people are surprised to find out that I'm like a sober extrovert in a cardigan. I mean, a sober introvert in a cardigan, because it's like my characters are like really. I have.
It's the cardigan mostly.
It's mostly they're like what. But I have like I think my characters are very loud. Like I have like Debbie, who's just constant fucking yard sales, and you know my husband Mitch, and blah blah. So like Deb is really crass and loud. And I have quiet. I have Jacob, who's stressed. I'm 5 years old, and I got a Tamagotchi. You ever seen that?
No.
Nick, you ever seen Tamagotchi?
No, I haven't.
It's a baby dinosaur, and he lives inside a keychain. I love him. I feed him every day.
How does a dinosaur fit in a keychain?
I don't know. He's made out of digitals. So like Jacob has a specific point of view. Like I would never do like Tamagotchi joke. That's really my niche is Tamagotchi jokes.
There are certain places in Japan where you can work
Yes,
all
I have
year
it.
round.
All of my characters have too niche of an audience. That's why I'm not rich or famous, because I only do Sophie Tucker jokes, and that's a really those Mary jokes are a very small slice of the population.
You got to start singing Rusty Warren songs as well.
Yes, bounce your boobies.
Yes, I've spoken to her twice.
You have?
She's
Guys, look her up. Is she in Hawaii?
Yes, that's where she lives now. She stopped performing, I think,
I'm so happy that we both know who Rusty Warren is. I used to perform Bounce Your Boobies as Mary Dolan at Perestroika, Katya's show. Katya, who is like now famous from being on RuPaul's Drag Race, but like ran the best drag show I've ever seen in this like tiny place. Shocks. You must know Shocks. And I would do Bounce Your Boobies, and the drag queens got mad because I was making I would basically be like, I'm just gonna pass a basket. I'm not gonna come around to you. Just put money in the basket. And I would sometimes I would wear like a nun hat and pass a basket and be like, this is for children. Just kidding, it's for me. And the queens got mad. Not Katya, who is a gem and an angel, but they booted me off the show.
Did you know that Rusty Warren started out in Boston?
No.
A student of the New England Conservatory. She started out doing jazz around Boston before comedy became more lucrative.
That's so funny. She reminds me, I don't know much, like I basically know like that and like a little, I know that she's still alive? Sorry, Rusty,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, you're still alive. Great, good job. Good job, Rusty. I don't know much, but
Well, she's the string of albums in the 60s, the Party records, the Band in Boston record.
So much.
I have weird pockets of information, and none of them are terribly useful in a day-to-day situation. Like other people know how to handle their taxes. I can give you Monty Python quotes, and I can tell you about several starting running backs for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I can give you
no life skills.
Rusty. I have some life skills. My biggest life skill is being able to sit back and watch and figure out what the other humans are doing, I think.
That's good. Yeah, you're good at that. You're a good writer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, man. I like it.
Thank
it
you.
a lot.
So what's going on in Los Angeles now? What are you...
What's going on in Los Angeles now?
You were working with the Groundlings. Are you still...
Yeah, I just did my writing lab at the Groundlings, which is great and fun, and I got asked to advance, so I'm on a 2-year wait list to take advanced lab, which is cuckoo nutty balls. So I'm just kind of chilling, and I have my regular Mary Dolan show. I've been writing a lot more, so I actually wrote a half-hour pilot called Somerville.
Yes, you did.
I did. I just had it. So I wrote it, and then we were like, "Fuck it, let's just film it." So because I wrote it for specific people that I was doing improv with at the time.
You did a premiere of it, right? Was that?
Yeah. So we did we independently produced it. We each put a month of rent forward, and then we had a couple like EPs who also put money or like equipment into it. And then we just invited as many industry people and like friends and stuff like that as we could, and we had a huge turnout. It was great. So we're kind of talking to a couple people. I would love for Somerville to take off. I love it a lot. And then I'm also working on a genderqueer modern day odd couple web series called Them that I'm pitching around as well. I used to producing everything myself. Like I produced an entire season of Meals with Mary, which is a Mary Dolan cooking show, which I love and I'm proud of, but it like broke me. It's so hard to like write and produce, and I was lucky I had a co-writer who directed. But
well, how easy is it to find partners like that who would do that? Is it just that you're being too hard on yourself, or is it you just don't know to do anything else?
No, I could. The thing is, I could, but I think the thing is, I love writing my own stuff. Like I think like I do so many kind of weird niche things that if I was waiting for somebody to like, we're gonna put you on TV as an elderly woman, like that's just never gonna happen. So I I write a lot and I
you,
love
you
it.
say that, but there are things like Little Britain got on TV.
Right, but it's because they created it.
Yeah, they created their own thing. That's something that it feels like there are more possibilities now.
Yes.
To get out there.
Exactly. Yes. So
they're all
sure.
niche opportunities, but they're.
I think what I'm looking for is somebody else to just produce. So
Uh-huh.
not necessarily like Comedy Central, but even just in a more, because there's so much independently, like CISO's really blowing up. And
one of the regional comedies, not the central comedy.
exactly. Yeah. Only Pacific, Mountain, or Eastern. That's it.
Pacific comedy.
Yeah, Pacific comedy.
They wouldn't get this back east.
Oh my God. If anybody I think like we're really entertaining ourselves.
Yes, I should probably wrap this up for.
No, I looked at my watch like an a-hole, but it was only to make a time reference to tell you that it's 2:40. We're fucking killing it though. We don't care.
It is the Department of Tangents. That's the name of the podcast.
That's right.
So
I'm so happy you got it up and running.
Really, well, thank you. Yeah, it was.
How long has it been?
It's been a year and 1 month.
Holy shit.
It went live March 18th of last year.
You had to let St. Patrick's Day pass and then.
Yes, I had to sort of wake up from that.
Yeah, exactly. The high holy day of Boston.
But it's been a lot of fun. It's been sort of a learning experience because I
just talking to everybody.
Everybody trying to just get people whose work I admire. So that's why it's kind of. Thank you. I've gotten to talk to some amazing people for this. Robbie Folks and Alejandro Escobedo are two of my sort of songwriting heroes. Both did the podcast. I got
so exciting.
Sit in a room with Stephen Wright, who's one of my.
Yeah.
He's one of the reasons why there is a Department of Tangents.
Really?
It's because and why it's named this. Because a lot of these conversations that I have with people, my day job is writing for the Boston Globe and writing for other publications, and sometimes I'll do an hour-long interview with somebody, and then I've got to write 900 words of that. And
and it's kind of killer.
You can't get there's more interesting things. There are more fun things that happen in an interview that just get lost. So I'm actually going back to my archives and putting some of those up.
Really?
In addition to the new interviews. I was just going to do it once a month.
That's cool.
But somewhere along month 2, it became a weekly podcast.
You like it?
I do. I need to get better at editing. But there's a technical aspect.
Reach for the stars, baby. Reach for the stars.
As anybody who's listened to this podcast more than a couple times probably knows.
Everyone's at home nodding along, being like, shut the fuck up.
He does need to get better at editing.
Yeah.
For one thing, he left this part of the conversation.
Guys, I'm having a blast, so.
Well, this is how many podcasts do you think you've done? I think it seems like every comedian has to do podcasts.
I wish more.
Uh-huh.
I love them. I just did a great one, Lizard People, with Kate Hempstead.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It's great. She has I think just comedians, people in general.
Sometimes both.
Yeah, sometimes, rarely, but on to talk about their favorite conspiracy theories.
Oh.
And sometimes it's just a battle of oh my God, I'm not thinking of words anymore because it's so late. It's a battle of devil's advocate stuff because people are like, I don't really believe in this for the sake of this conversation, and they get into it. It's like an hour of like discovering and it's kind of a debate, like a debate battle.
Right. For someone who doesn't believe this at all, you're very knowledgeable about the conspiracy that you're claiming not to believe.
Exactly.
What was yours?
Well, I kind of pitched her on it. I kind of bent the rules a little bit, but I pitched the idea that all homophobic politicians are gay. And I was like, I feel like it's a conspiracy theory in the gay community. Like the minute that a politician is like, he's always caught in the bathroom doing something with somebody.
But where's the conspiracy? Doesn't the conspiracy mean like it's a concerted effort by a group of people?
Well, that ended up being... Guys, I'm not going to give it away. But they're
Right,
usually
I don't
more.
want to take the thunder
It's
away
really
from-
more like a alien meteor shit. But I was like, I really want to talk about this. She was like, just come on the show. So I forced her. I didn't force her. She was into it. But I did that. It hasn't come out yet, but I did Ken Reed's.
Oh,
Great
yes.
TV guidance
fantastic.
counselor. That was really fun. Yeah, I don't know.
Everybody's got their niche and their angle.
I
Niche
know.
or
I
niche.
keep.
I always say niche, and now I have to say niche because everybody else seems. We seem to have.
We've socially agreed that that's what we're saying.
Yeah,
It's fancy.
I think in the day and age that I came up, it was not agreed upon quite yet.
I think people would just say like, "Stick to your corner. Stick to your corner, Nick."
Yeah, I didn't grow up in Boston, so
Oh,
I wouldn't hear that.
then-
I grew up in upstate New York.
You know what there's a saying in my family. It must be like a New England thing. I don't think it's like a my family thing, but it's tend to your own knitting. It's like mind your own business.
I've never heard
You
that.
never heard
before.
that? Yeah. My grandmother would say that. Hey, tend to your own knitting. Be like, no one here knits. No one in our family's knitting. And I like the idea that like if you're knitting, you can't be like looking over and seeing what other people are doing too. I'm like, this is probably the one activity where you can dart your eyes around and be like, ooh, cool cross stitch. I know nothing about knitting.
Yeah, no, my grandmother knitted. I used to follow her around to craft shows and be her helper
Really?
at that. So she would be selling hats and scarves and dicky
So
sets.
fun.
No, it's when I was first introduced to was first introduced to Mormons. And there was a
Really?
I used to have, there used to be-
Everyone knows their first time.
Yes. Well, it was strange. I grew up I grew up Catholic without a lot of knowledge that there were other religions.
Interesting.
Really, I guess I kind of knew they were out there, but I didn't really know. And I guess I figured if
It wasn't like intentional erasure.
No.
It was just that was your world. That's how it is.
Yeah, it's just that I didn't know there were
Right.
other things. I knew there were other churches around, but I didn't quite know that there were divisions that between Catholic and Protestant. I didn't know all of that.
Right.
So I go to this craft show, and it's really hot at the town where we're doing this, and I would go run around a little bit and then come back to the table and help out and get to explore. And the only place that had air conditioning was this. It looked like it can't be like it is in my memory. There's no way it's like because it looked like it looked like a Ray Bradbury story inside. It was old timey sort of. I walked in this place, and the only place with air conditioning, and there was a movie running, and it was talking about Jesus meeting the Indians, and I'm like, this seemed like science fiction to me, and so. There was nobody in there when I walked in there, and then there was all of a sudden this guy in there, and he started to talk to me about, do you know about Mormonism? Do you know? And I was like,
How old
I
were
just
you?
watched the film. I was 9 or 10 or something, and I was so insensitive. He was like, do you know about the time when Jesus met the Indians? I'm like, Jesus didn't meet the Indians. But like I had no idea this was something. Like I thought it seemed like a hall. I'm talking way too much about myself now, but it seemed like
No, I'm fascinated.
It seemed like a Hall of Presidents kind of thing to me.
Right.
Like I thought this was all some wonderful theater, and it was really like a Mormon museum.
God.
And I was in there being a
But where
little
did the
jerk to this guy.
Where did the hat knitting come into this Mormon Hall of Presidents?
Uh,
Why?
Well,
Was it just like a craft show?
That's what reminded me, because my grandmother used to knit. I used to follow her to all these shows and see that.
Oh, these are different events. The craft show was at the Mormon
the craft
place?
show, yeah, I would go and explore the craft while I was with my grandmother at the craft show.
I got you.
Ooh, something to make sure there's not a murder going on. In the back.
Drunk people,
Oh,
I
it's just
think.
drunk.
Shh. Be quiet.
Oh, I think they heard it. So when
not
you
hearing
see
us.
people doing something strange or acting up or do you file that away, and does that become like how do you create the
like do I
bits of
suck
character?
people's weirdness and then? Yes.
Yes, do you suck people's weirdness?
I do suck people's weirdness.
But do you accumulate the strange bits of?
I think you
that's not any
have
better.
to. Yeah. I accumulate the strange bits and then I suck the weirdness. It's a real Frankenstein thing. No, it's
Buy the t-shirts.
Yeah, thanks. They'll be up on the site. I feel like you have to. Like I feel like there's a lot of ways I describe myself, like a character comedian or like a physical comedian. But I think you just start to sometimes. There's a lot of noises happening. Is that okay?
Yes, but
guys,
it
this
should
is
be
the
fine.
worst listening experience of your life. Is it?
Well, it's stereo microphones because so they can hear it sort of pass.
Ah.
So it's immersive. That's
Right.
that's how I'm gonna sell it, anyways.
Right. Yeah, that's how we're spinning this. Every so often I'll see somebody do something and be like, huh, that's funny. And I do sort of tuck it away, but I think it's more like I don't intend to do it, but if I'm doing like, I kind of have been like working this Midwest mom character, and it's funny, like the qualities of my mom, my own mom that come out that I don't think I would necessarily be like, oh, that's my mom.
Uh-huh. They can't have said what I just thought they said.
They just yelled the C word, I think. Yeah, shut it down.
No, I thought I just heard somebody yell, "Do you think I'm menstruating right now?"
This is the Women in Comedy Festival.
Which
it's
is
very possible.
Yes, but it just seems like a... was that question
Everybody's
posed
free.
to gain information, or was it standoffish?
What actually is...
Do you think I'm,
Maybe they were accused.
Yes. Does it look like I'm? No.
Yeah. Nothing physically. There's no telltale signs.
Those people were just bounced out of the hotel
Yes. I've never seen someone bounce out of the hotel lobby before.
lobby. Especially a western forest.
Yeah, for sure. It's so beautiful. I love it.
It is. It does feel nice and breezy, like it's outside here.
Because they got that spa music playing.
Yeah.
It's real classy.
As opposed to the party we just came from, which was very loud.
It was so loud. It was fun. I decided to embrace it because I was like, I'm either going to be like a cranky old man right now and just like have a little doo-doo face on, or I'm just going to embrace it. And I did. And now I'm here talking to you, which means that we've actually shut the party down.
Yes, I'm very proud of that. I can shut a party down.
Yeah.
I can't create a party.
That's on the t-shirts also.
Yes, shut the party down.
The Department of Tangents shuts the party down.
Yes. Well, the Department of Tangents, so I can shut the party down specifically.
Right.
I've been doing it for years. I feel mortified to dance. I was just talking to somebody else about that. It's just any sort of public physical movement.
I love it.
I do not mix well with.
I did a lot more. Excuse me. I did a lot more like shoulder dancing tonight. I'm kind of nursing a bad back, and I really couldn't get down. Some girls were just getting down, but I couldn't get down.
Well, my first instinct is like, oh, look at them making a fool of themselves. But I'm standing somewhere watching somebody having fun.
Yeah, no, you're the one making the fool of yourself.
Yes.
Everyone on the dance floor is like, who's that creepy guy in the beard?
Yes, with the BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help at all.
That really
Look
elevates.
at that fool out there having fun. I've got a full keyboard on this. I don't need you.
This is the hot thumb action. Jeez.
We're a t-shirt factory.
Yeah. Wow.
So you're saying your mother, you have a Midwest character that you wouldn't say is your mother necessarily, but has traits of your mother.
Yeah, and it's probably because I have traits of my mother, of course, but it's like, I think it's more like I will see it back, or I'll start to, like, if I make a video or something, I'll watch it, or like my sisters will see it and be like, wow, that's so Nana or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I think it's more like an osmosis thing than a being like, I'm going to take what you're doing and do this thing.
Mm. But Mary Dolan is partly
totally.
your grandmother?
Yep.
Partly or
you know, it's funny. I always thought that she definitely was very much my Grammy. My gram was a vaudeville revival performer.
Uh-huh.
So like I think in like the 70s she performed old Sophie Tucker numbers. She was like a nice big fat lady who performed like all these big things with like a bullseye on her butt and like everyone in the family, because it was like a very shy mechanic husband and like 5 boys, and they were all like horrified, you know. She was just like awesome and fun loving. When she died, I inherited her costume trunk. Mm-hmm. So I started pulling pieces, and I wanted to create an old lady character. So I that's how I started doing because I learned Sophie Tucker songs from her. So I was like doing that and really doing her accent, you know. Mm. She would say like things like con instead of corn. She'd be like, "What having con tonight?" So it kind of became like that accent, but she wasn't very like dippy. And it's my mom's mom who's like she's kind of flighty. My Nana. I just went to Friendly's with her and had a Reese's peanut butter cup sundae. It was so good. I used her. She was like, "Do you want to just come over?" I was like, "Can I take you to Friendly's?" She was like, "I'll take you to Friendly's." And I was like,
that's what
it was
you were
a win-win.
for.
Yeah. She paid, and I had a Reese's peanut butter cup sundae. It was a real win-win. But anyway, like that sort of like delighted flightiness, I think, is actually more my Nana.
So you've taken from...
I meld them. Mm-hmm. But neither of them are sexual at all, so I don't know where all Mary's wiener talk comes in.
Because she started hosting burlesque. So.
Right. That's what it was. And I think it's like... It's a fun thing, because I think when people see an old lady character, they really want to put stuff on it, where they either think she's gonna be this type, or she's gonna be like a Betty White, or she's gonna be like doing this or doing. I think people expect something, so I think it started because I was trying to keep people on their toes, because they wanted Mary, because Mary can be really sweet, and she loves what she does. And her kind of way of love is like roasting. So, you know, Brendan Burns, my long-suffering accompanist. You know Brendan, right?
Not personally.
Great guy, like a tall string bean of a man. But he plays guitar, or he used to when I was in Boston, and intermittently when I come out. And Mary just roasts the crap out of him, and the audience goes crazy. But Mary reaches a point. She's not cruel. She's not doing, like, really cruel humor. I think she knows who can take it. Mm-hmm. And if people can't take it, I pull back.
I hadn't thought about it till just now, but I wonder how much these characters are a product of the context in which they're created. So what would Mary Dolan be like if you hadn't developed her through burlesque shows, hosting burlesque shows?
I wonder.
Would she be who she is now without that context? Or I wonder if it applies to the other characters as well.
Interesting. Well, I developed her in All the King's Men. I was in a drag character comedy troupe called All the King's Men. So I really developed Mary as like a lip-syncing character. We had a nursing home number where we performed to Madonna's Like a Virgin. And then I wanted to talk as I kind of was like developing the voice. It was like a fun thing we would do in rehearsal. And then we needed to fill time between numbers. And so every so often, if we had a character that started really getting developed, we'd kind of like talk as that character. And so I started talking as Mary. And then I started lip-syncing to Sophie Tucker numbers. And then my ex-partner and we developed a variety show outside of it, and I started hosting those shows as Mary. So it kind of was like, started in like a drag sense, like drag comedy, and then became like variety show host. Where we kind of had a lot of ideals of old vaudeville and old burlesque, where like you would come and you could see all different types of things, and it really would flow as a whole show, which I'm really like fascinated by, like New York at the turn of the century, where like you would just hear like a Yiddish song and then see like a comedian and then watch like a short play, and like it would really be actual variety instead of like.
Did you study? I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, just instead of being like there's 5 comedians and one person who's like doing comedy magic or whatever, which is like great, but it's just not a variety show, and we were really striving to have like full genre flips from thing to thing.
How do you come by that appreciation for vaudeville and the old time shows?
I think for my grandmother, who, you know, did the vaudeville revival shows, so
Did she tell you a lot of...
Yeah, I mean, it was like all anecdotal. It wasn't like, let me sit you down and give you a history lesson, but I think I always loved that part, and when we studied American history, I was like really drawn to that part. And then I, through doing research for Mary Dolan, so I read like Sophie Tucker's autobiography, and then I started reading old books. There's this great book called motherfucker. It's called I think it's called Vaudeville, Voice of the City, which is like what vaudeville means, vaudeville. And so that was like a really easy read. It was almost like way better than Cliff's Notes, but it was like one of those like pretty easy, like thin, great history books where I could kind of like glean stuff. But I love biographies, so I'll like read a lot of old biographies.
Wish I could remember the name. I have a vaudeville history. It's like a big, thick 400-page thing that I haven't gotten to yet somewhere.
It's so fascinating.
I'll have to email you. There's this whole sort of continuation of what people are doing today versus what they were doing in vaudeville, where people started taking ownership and using their own name and started writing their own material, and how that sort of how that happened, how that transformed in the 50s and the 60s into what were happening.
It's amazing. It's amazing how it vaudeville and all that sort of naturally transpired because New York City was what it was. Like, I kind of love that idea that like people from all over the world were pouring into Ellis Island, and there were like little neighborhoods that were doing their own thing, but like slowly circuits started getting made, and in order to make enough money, because it was just like men who would go out to these like shows where there'd be a show on while they were drinking, and then they were like, fuck, if we make this a show for the whole family, the wives will catch on, and they'll be like, well, you're taking me and all the kids, and suddenly they're selling 4 tickets instead of 1, and to kind of like then sort of make that a thing, and then people who made circuits and like got like, you know, the sexiness out of it and brought, because then if you have one Yiddish performer, then you have everyone from the Jewish neighborhood coming to see that one performer, and you have the Irish comic, and then people are coming to see the Irish comic. It's genius.
It's most probably why in every smallish city around the country there's a theater that's about 100 years old. Right.
I love it. Like performing at the Somerville Theater here. It's unbelievable. It was an old vaudeville house.
Do you know much of the history of it? Did you look?
I don't know a ton. I do know that it's an old vaudeville house, and that it was for live shows, and they had that pit that I think did they restore the pit?
I don't think there's a pit there. I was just there, so
I think
2 days ago
was a pit, and then maybe they built over it.
Possibly, because
you got to interview Ian Judge. That's a great guy to interview.
Yeah, I've got to interview
Ian Judge, who runs the Somerville Theater. He would know all about the history of that place. He's a cool guy. Ian Judge, I love him. He does a lot of really great programming.
We've not met. I'll have to introduce myself.
He's doing a bunch of like black and white silent films right now, and the Women in Comedy Festival is there right now. Plus he has like regular shows. There's a screening room, and then there's like a weird museum in the bottom.
Yes, the Museum of Bad Art.
Museum of Bad Art.
It used to be in Dedham. It's now there.
Really? Good old Dedham.
Yeah, there's an amazing amount of shows that go on there. I've seen an interesting variety of shows.
Yeah, he's like really worked to keep that like a really viable space.
I saw Gary Loris of the Jayhawks play there. I've seen 2 shows there at the comedy.
I don't know what that is.
The Jayhawks, an Americana band.
Sorry.
It's a
I don't know music at all.
They've been around since the late 80s. Actually, I just bought today because it's new release day, and I'm usually at the record store. A new release. I feel like I'm single-handedly trying to keep physical media
I was going to say.
existing. Well, Ray Davies of the Kinks released an album today with the Jayhawks as his backing band. So I picked that up today.
Great. Do you like it?
It's in my car player. I have yet to crack the first, because I've got to...
Maybe give it a 4 a.m. listen.
It'll be a 4 a.m. drive time listen once I finish with... I'm finishing an episode of The Nerdist, and then once that's
You
up,
just devour media.
I feel compelled to. I feel like... I think I've said this before to people. I feel like I'm so behind.
That you're just constantly trying to...
There's more... I would never hear somebody say that there's not good music these days. Nobody's writing like they used to. They're like, well, all right, so even if we said that's true, you probably haven't read everything that's good that was
There's no way.
I talked to my dad about music, and he said a few years ago he started to like the band U2, and he said it's because he's finally caught up to the 80s. That's where he is now, and listening
that's hilarious.
to all the music.
Wait till he gets to Ludacris, man. He's going to blow his fucking mind.
But I feel like people send me stuff because I write about the arts for a living, and I have probably 20 albums that I haven't reviewed yet for this site that are on my desktop at home. I just can't keep up. There's too much good stuff
That's
coming
how
out.
I feel about like comedy. Like I can't, and I start to just get in a loop where I'm just like, I'm just gonna rewatch 30 Rock again because I just can't. There's so many shows. I think I just watched Boardwalk Empire. Like I finally just started watching it. I was like, I just can't. I've never seen The Sopranos. Like there's just too much. Not that that's a comedy.
I want to start from the beginning of things, so that I've only seen season 1 of Breaking Bad.
Oh, you dummy. That's such a good show.
Well, because at the end of the first season, I'm like, next season they're going to try to redeem him, and that's going to be awful, so I'm just going to skip that. Little did I know, the whole arc of the thing is to just keep making him worse. I predicted what they were going to do, but
they
I predicted it wrong. Yeah. I love this. I love the first season. I'm like, I'm going to hate the second season when they try to make him into a good guy again.
Oh fuck no! I love it. Right. He just digs himself a hole till he dies.
And now I feel like I can't watch Better Call Saul yet.
No,
because I haven't watched. So this is how this happened.
It's so funny to me that so many people know Odenkirk from, Breaking Bad. Yes. I'm just like, no.
He's done. Paul McCartney was in a band before Wings. That whole thing.
Oh my God, it's exactly what it is. People are like, oh, where'd that guy come from? I'm like, what? He'd get you to Mr. Show right now.
He's done one or two things.
He's done a couple of things. I met him once. I did a really weird, desperate handshake where I came at him with my hand out, and he was like, and I was like, I'm so sorry. You're the reason that I live here. It was when I just moved to LA, and he was walking out of the Groundlings Theater, and I moved to LA to go to the Groundlings, and part of what convinced me to do that is that I signed up for a sketch writing class at UCB in New York. And I would get on a bus. I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and I would take a bus to South Station and get on a bus to New York. And I would take the bus to New York, take a sketch writing class, and the whole way up I would watch Mr. Show, on headphones. And then go to this 3.5-hour sketch writing class with Adam Conover was my teacher, who does Adam Ruins Everything now. So that's who I learned sketch writing from. And then I would either come back that day or sleep over at a friend's house or my sister-in-law's house, and then come back the next morning. And so that was what propelled me to really be writing. And then I was like, I need to be studying more. I want to go to the Groundlings. And then Odenkirk walks out of the Groundlings Theater, and I was like, you're literally the reason I'm standing here shaking your hand, like watching Mr. Show made me want to pursue this more. So I moved here to go to the Groundlings. Now you're here. It was really intense for him. He was like, great, thanks. And
do you get that way? Have you met other of your idols?
I met Melissa McCarthy.
Yes, I remember
that. Oh my God. The first thing I said to her is, what are you doing here? Which was so, I waited tables at a place called the Village Idiot. It is delightful. It's on Melrose and Martel in LA. And I got that job because it's a block from the Groundlings. And so I was like, I just want to be in this vicinity. So I got a job there. So every so often, like the main company all comes in, but like, the alums, whatever. And it's like a Tuesday day. It's dead in there. And I'm at the computer by the front, just sort of like typing some order in, and I register that the door has opened. So kind of like out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, hey, sit wherever you like. And as I'm saying sit wherever you like, my head turns to like smile at who's there. It's like, sit wherever you like. Oh my God, what are you doing here? That's what I didn't mean to. And it was her and Ben Falcone. And she was like, she was literally exactly your dream of what Melissa and Ben are. Was exactly how they were. And that was also a really crazy day because it was my very first time I was going to be getting on the Groundlings stage. It was like my intermediate class or something, and you have a show on the student stage. And it was my very first time that night, which is why I was working the lunch shift. And I was like, sorry, I feel like I'm telling a long-winded stories.
That's okay.
Is that what? I guess the Department of Tangents is.
Yes. It not only is it a podcast, it's a podcast called Department of Tangents.
Right, exactly right. So, kind of one of the reason that I chose to move to LA and go to Groundlings instead of move to New York and go to UCB was because Bridesmaids came out. And I had never seen Gilmore Girls. Like, I'd never seen Melissa McCarthy before. It was my very first time, and she blew my fucking mind open. And I remember watching it, and I, like, watched it again. And so I looked her up. I was like, who is this up-and-comer? I had, like, no idea. She'd been working, like, forever. And I saw that she went to the Groundlings, and I was like, I've heard that. And then I saw that Paul Rubens, who created Pee Wee Herman, was one of the OG Groundlings, and I started looking at who Groundlings were, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I do.
With Phil Hartman.
Yeah. I was like, and I had developed Mary Dolan by then and developed these other characters. It was like I was doing it without knowing. And the minute I thought of it, I was like, oh yeah, Pee Wee Herman was my hero. Like, that was a character. I need to go to this character school. So it was seeing Melissa McCarthy and Bridesmaids was like, I'm moving. And I moved like very soon after just to go. So she walks in the first day of my Groundlings show, of course. When
You take it as a sign?
I was like, I promise, like I got it together, waited on them, and I was like, I know people do this, and I really promise I'm not, but like, and I gave her the very brief version. I was like, but I have my show tonight, and it's really like unbelievable that I'm meeting you. It really is like changing. This is one of those moments that's changing my life right now. And she was super kind. They left me a $50 tip. But I get to the theater that night, and they had sent me flowers. So I have hanging above my writing desk dried flowers from Melissa and Ben with a little card. I forget what it says. Something like, kick so much ass or something like that.
It's those little kindnesses that are the big surprises in life.
It was unbelievable. I mean, she didn't have to do that. Can you imagine being as busy as they are and being like, you know what? I'm going to do this thing that I know would like change this person's life.
Some people are just sweet people. And I got...
It was so... She knew how meaningful it was for me. And was so kind about it. And I left her alone. Like, I didn't want to, like, fan out on them.
But I got flowers and a letter after I interviewed Jerry Stiller. It was just... That's
classy.
And I interviewed... It was just like a half-hour interview for him coming to town for a movie called The Independent that he was in.
That's so cool.
But he's just... I don't even know where he got my address. I can't remember having told him. But it just... Oh, man. It was such a weird thing. like, who is sending me flowers?
That's like old school Hollywood
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just, people can be surprisingly sweet.
Yeah.
And it's nice when it's somebody
And
who you admire already.
right. And it was so meaningful for my whole class, you know?
Uh-huh.
Because I got to the rehearsal before the show and I was like, you guys are never going to fucking believe what happened. Like, our show has been blessed. And it was like, flowers for Petey Gibson? And I was like, who the hell is sending me flowers? And it was like, love, Melissa, and Ben. And my whole class was like, oh my God.
So-
Like we had been blessed. Like the show had been like blessed by the most, one of the most amazing people to ever come out of that program.
So did that mark you for the rest of the
Oh.
class? Did people...
Yeah, people thought I was the shit. I didn't pass, actually.
You didn't
I
pass?
didn't. I had to retake intermediate improv.
After being the chosen one at the
Yeah,
beginning.
what the fuck, man? That sucks.
So if Melissa McCarthy is listening to this, don't send flowers next time.
Yeah, you really fucked that up for me, man. Someday when I get famous, I'll tell her this story in person. She'll be like, I don't recall this at all. You're a psycho. And I'll be like, hey, we're both famous. We can talk to each other.
Right. And also, why are you on my porch and why are you dressed like that?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got a shotgun and she's like, I will give you 5 seconds to get out of here.
she's
But I'm famous now.
that whole Sean Spicer bit. That's her warding off.
Man, she's got rage to burn. Have you seen Nobodies?
Not yet. No.
It's
It
so-
premiered tonight, didn't it, or this week
No. I think it's on its 4th or 5th week.
already? God, well,
Yeah.
and this is another
It's the 22nd, guys.
thing that I get. This is another reason why I get behind.
You can't watch everything.
Mm.
It was brought to my attention, and I'm really glad that it was. It's fucking delightful. It's on TV Land.
That's what?
It's on TV
On
Land.
TV Land, right?
Which is weird.
Well, at least now
But great.
I can see things on demand.
Right. No, it's in a sense it doesn't matter what anything's on anymore, unless
Right.
it's HBO, because they really don't leak that stuff. You can't just
Right.
do they?
You mean for on demand or for
Meaning,
seeing stuff?
like, can you just like rip it off the internet for free? Like, I feel like any shows now you can just kind of like catch them on Hulu.
Well, yeah, there's so many different streaming platforms now. You got to
So
figure out.
many.
Well, somebody who has one different brand of cable services might not have the same things on demand as somebody else has.
That's true. Well, if you have TV Land, guys, watch Nobodies, because I would really like a season 2.
And you seem like somebody who was very focused on what you wanted to do for a very long time.
I
Did you
love what I
know-
do.
Did you know what you wanted to do early on? Did you know, when did you first sort of figure that out?
I kind of thought I don't know what I thought. I went to Emerson ever so briefly to be I thought I was going to be a children's book writer.
There's still time.
I still think I will, because I love young adult literature. I really love I love all kinds of kids stories, like all the way up and stuff. And I have like a pretty big collection. Like, I think I kind of look like a creep because my thing is like my bookcase is like stories about vaudeville, biographies, Nazi history, and like children's books, and it's just sort of all mixed together. I also
And then next to that, a corkboard with a lot of celebrity pictures cut out and
yes,
pins and
with
dots
just
and
with big X's through, Melissa McCarthy
the eyes
and Dave and Odenkirk,
yeah.
Well, Bob and Melissa are off the list. I call them by their first names.
I've made the connection.
Yeah. Oh man, crazy. But I don't know. I always loved performing as a kid. I did dance. I was like a little tap dancer. I've always liked entertaining people, but I'm not the funniest one in my family. My sisters are super, super funny.
A lot of comedians will say that.
Yeah, so I think that I have the drive to, like, they have no desire to be comedians. They're just naturally really funny, and I'm like, I'm just gonna just steal all your stuff, because I have this like real drive to like there kind of isn't a day off. It's like every day I just like want to be creating and collaborating and making stuff, and I love it. I love collaborative comedy, and so I don't know. It just happened. I was really depressed. Actually, what happened is I went through a bad breakup and I was really depressed, and my friend was like, "There's a group called All the King's Men and they're having auditions. You would be good at drag. You should do it." And I was like, oh, it had never occurred to me to do drag. I went out and I bought an ace bandage, and I learned how to bind my chest down for the audition. And then I auditioned like in my underpants. It's like a stupid, like, they make fun of me so much for it now. I was like, I can't believe I was like in tighty whities and performed Pretty Fly for a White Guy. So, but that started me doing like characters and comedy, and like I had horrible stage fright. I still have no idea what possessed me to. I just did it. I like wrote to them and they said auditions are tomorrow, and I just like put an act together, and I still like can't. If I think back, I'm like, I actually can't believe that I ever went to that audition. If it had been like auditions are next week, I probably never would have done it. But it was like there tomorrow, and I had nothing to do tomorrow, so it's kind of a lot of stuff. I feel like if you just don't think about it, if you just step off the cliff, you don't think like, am I gonna just hit the bottom, or can I like float down, or am I gonna fly? Like what's the action that gets me to the next thing? It's
I
like
just
you
open my coat and glide down.
Exactly. If you just like step, I feel like Jesus will catch you, baby.
And you started out not being yourself on stage too, so that might have
totally
helped.
I only started doing stand-up 5 years ago, but I've been a live performer, well, really my whole life, but I've been doing characters for probably 12 years.
Do you feel like
13?
a different person when you're doing a character?
I'm way more confident. It doesn't even occur to me to like be nervous. It's like a different part of my brain takes over. Like I know Mary so well. I've been doing Mary for so long that I don't write material for Mary. I barely even think of what I'm going to say. I just get on stage and it's almost like my brain switches over to Mary improv brain.
Well, where does Petey go when Mary's up front?
The only time it's been happening more and more, I wonder if I've been just doing it longer, but it'll be like I'm talking as Mary, and sometimes my producer brain will start being like, ooh, are we running long on time? Like I can kind of like be doing both brains at once, or like as Mary, I'm, so this other time I was talking to Bing Crosby, and in my mind I'm going, is the next performer ready? Who's the next performer that I have on? Right. It's really only that I personally have a bad memory. I can pass it off as Mary being old. Right. But in my mind, I'm going, oh my God, what the fuck is the lineup? Who the fuck is next? And I'm just talking and talking.
So that's three people, though. So you've got producer, Petey, and Mary all sort of sharing space at that point.
Exactly. So that's the most. But I have to trust myself. That's so much what improv is. And that's what I love about improv is you're thinking as hard as you can and as little as you can at exactly the same time. Like you have to remember stuff. You have to know like, okay, when I'm this person, they called me Violet, and so that's who this person is, and this is this detail, and this is what's happening. You're going in and out of like when you're doing long form, just crazy long form improv. It's unbelievable, and every time I do it, I'm like, I literally can't believe I just did that.
So is it good for somebody with a bad memory to be in improv, or bad for Mary? Because you have to remember things, but you can also...
Yeah, I'm good physically, so I'll remember more physically. Like if I play 5 different characters in a long form improv, if I'm in a scene with someone, they start slumping, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the old guy. His name is Jim. He has a weird leg. Like I'll remember that because we both go into the scene and we crouch over and I'm like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing now. So, or I just rely on everybody else to provide the details of what's supposed to be happening.
You can start asking questions because everybody's got to be yes and.
Exactly. That's the collaborative nature. You're not supposed to ask questions in improv though. You just provide information. Like you would never
I
be
didn't
like,
know that was a rule.
What? Yeah, well, it's considered like cruel to your, not cruel, but just
Because
inconsiderate.
you got to make that.
So you walk out into a scene and you're like, what do you want to do today? That person's like, wow, I have to give you all the information.
Right.
So instead of being like, what are we going to do today? You're like, this cake is going to blow mom's fucking mind. And then you've given so many details, like it's probably her birthday, we're siblings,
Right.
we're doing an action, we're building a cake, why are we so proud? I'm really excited. So like you've given the emotion and the action and a detail, and then they can kind of jump in, and that's where the yes and comes in.
Yeah, I've thought about whether studying improv more closely would improve my interviewing.
It's great.
You're that's
so
something
quiet
I've
though.
debated.
Would it scare you?
Would it scare me to do
Improv?
To do improv? I don't know.
Oh well, I perceive you as being a quiet person, but I guess I don't know you that well.
I think I'm generally a quiet person. I when I perform music, I have to be sort of out a little bit.
You're your
of
performer self.
Yeah.
Everyone
I have
has
to
that
be-
like version of themselves.
I mean, because I suppose I could just sort of sit there and play the music and not talk.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people there, and I feel like I should talk to them. So
Right.
I feel like there should be some sort of interaction, and the worst feeling is when you can't make that connection. With the music, sometimes unless they're like swaying or whatever, you don't necessarily know
So
how they're
hard.
reacting. They can be very internal,
Right.
especially playing like solo acoustic stuff like
Oh,
I do.
that's brutal.
So
Oh, that's brutal. I don't
Yeah.
think I could do that.
I have some songs that are they're not terribly happy songs. So it's a strange thing to start. I don't want to be like a crowd worky kind of. Hey, what are you?
Right.
That kind of guy. It's trying to get out of. It's trying to reach. It's very alpha in
It suddenly
hotel
changed
lobbies.
from like the women in comedy festival to drunk guys.
Well, it was like alpha women to alpha men. It's
Yeah.
this is.
He waved at me, so I waved back. I don't
Did
know
he
why.
respond to the wink? I didn't. Yeah, for those listening at home.
Hey, big boy.
I mean, do
They're the type of drunk where they have like stars in their eyes.
we?
They just are so shiny. Their faces were
like
so
a
shiny.
1930s cartoon with
Yeah.
literally stars coming in there.
Yeah, exactly. I think this room feels aggro because the ceilings are so tall, the acoustics are so nuts that everyone just feels real aggressive.
Yes. Well, we've been doing this for an hour.
Have we?
Yes,
Oh
and
my
I'm sorry
God.
for keeping you here for so long.
I'm
And
actually more awake than when we started.
that's what happens around 3 a.m. That happens to me all the time. But
It's because I'm an egomaniac and I've been able to talk about myself.
well, if I stay up past a certain time, you get the second wind, and then you have to let that pass. But thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
doing this. I appreciate it. And where should I tell people to find out more about Petey Gibson and Mary Dolan?
PeteyGibson.com is a usually slightly outdated version of what I'm doing now. Facebook, to be honest.
Mhm.
I've heard that that's starting to be a geezer's game. But
Yeah,
I
it's-
love Facebook, so fuck you guys. Find me on Facebook.
Yes, under Petey.
Exactly. Like Peter, but with a Y instead.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, guys. Find me. And if you want to hear me talk more about vaudeville, I did Jackie Cation's The Dork Forest.
Oh,
and I
shit's
talked.
great.
I know, I love that podcast. I was very lucky to go on. So I talked about vaudeville for an hour.
Mm.
If you need more of me being an ass in your life, I
Yes.
recommend other people's podcasts.
Yes, please go check that out, and thank you again.
Thank you. Loved it.
Hell to the hell isn't always a trend.
Thanks again to Petey Gibson for staying up until 3:30 talking and people watching in the lobby of the Westin Hotel. I want to assure you that she did make it home safely that night, and she is currently back in Los Angeles and working on all sorts of new stuff for you guys. You can find out more about what she's up to by visiting PeteyGibson.com. Again, that's PeteyGibson.com. And now a track from a fantastic singer-songwriter, Amy Helm. I first saw Amy Helm playing in her father Levon Helm's band on the Dirt Farmer tour. In 2015, she released her first solo album, Didn't It Rain, and she's currently at work on her follow-up. You can hear more about that later this week on episode 30. And if you enjoyed this podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you prefer to download your listening materials. Now here's Sing to Me from Amy Helm.
Let your voice come down and carry me through the silent trouble. I cannot see the angels by my side. Sing, sing to me. Sing, sing to me. Voices resound and love comes back around. Sing to me. Keep me near to your melody. Let me hear all the notes just gliding. I can feel my heart beat back in time. Keep me here. Keep me here. Voices resound and love comes back around. Sing to me. Let your drums call out and carry me through the silent trouble. I cannot see the angels by my side. Sing, sing to me. Sing, sing to me. Sing, sing to me. Sing, sing to me. Sing to me. Let your drums call out and carry through the silent trouble.
Neil Young.